Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Gayside Stories, where the gay shit goes. I am your host, Trilificent. Thank you so much for joining me for another week. Remember, you can listen to this show on Pippa, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, Acast, TuneIn, or at GaysideStories.com/shows. Remember to use the hashtag GaysidePod when you're live tweeting or posting about the show. And a big reminder, the Gayside Culture series is getting ready to start very soon. It's going to be sometime in July. I'm not exactly sure when. So if you plan on participating, or if I've hit you up asking if you wanted to participate and you agreed, please start sending those sound clips to me so I can figure out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to present them. And the audience survey, if you want to take some time to take that, all of that information is in the show notes. This week is a very special episode. It's still Pride Month, and I had a very special guest that I was very happy and glad that they took some time to come onto the show. So you guys pay attention. Hopefully you learned something. I know I did. And enjoy. So I have with me this week Bianca, podcaster and just general awesome person, a fellow Gemini, and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Wow, that's the nicest thing anyone said about me all year.
I do my best.
Hey, I think we're done here.
Hey.
Hey everybody, I am Bianca, aka Tall Bianca XO on Twitter. I'm not going to list off a whole bunch of AKAs because I'm someone's guest right now, technically. I am a transgender woman. I use she/her pronouns. That's really important. And I'm new to this, but way more true to this. We'll just go ahead and say. So
That's real.
hello, and thanks for having me in your digital space. And
thank you for coming.
I hope to make it. Whoa. The sun is still out, sir. What are you talking about?
But I'm pissed. Oh my God. You a little bit too turned, ma'am.
I mean,
a little bit too turned. So, you are one half of the podcast Crown and Collards on the CSPN network.
Indeed.
Where we have a sister show, Ratchet Ramblings. You guys know that I do. Tell the people a little bit about Crown and Collards.
So Crown and Collards began in 2014.
OGs?
On the dark side of midnight, when my co-host was up at that time, as he was often at that time, and mentioned wanting to do a podcast. And this was obviously well before I began my transition. And I was like, you know what, I'll do it. So the show began as two Southern gentlemen doing, basically like just porch talk. And then the porch talk kind of became this whole other thing where it was like, yo, we kind of like see eye to eye on a lot of stuff and can use our platform to be good representatives of like the greater Black community, dare I say. Because let's just face it, like we traffic in Black Twitter, primarily, and that's where most of our listenership comes from. But then, as my life began to change, and the lens through which I viewed the world began to change, I think we were able to make a pretty seamless. Here we go, y'all. Transition. Got that out the way, and I didn't sprout a hair anywhere. Awesome. Seamless transition into Dan leaving the show and Bianca taking over. The plot twist is on both of them, but no. It's been wonderful. I think I was episode 155 where I made the.
Yeah, it was pretty recent, right?
Where I made the official jump over because that was right around the time that I went full time with everything in my life.
Right.
It was like, in terms of the job and in terms of like social appearances and starting to work to become the woman I've always felt I am, which we'll delve into a lot more later. And the response has been overwhelmingly positive. We got a couple of 1 and 2 star ratings on the show, but that ain't nothing but low bottom haters.
Listen, I done told y'all about them 1-star woes. Save that for somebody else.
Right.
Let us live. Save that for the huge podcast where it doesn't really hurt them.
Thank you. Exactly.
You know, go give the brilliant idiots your 1-star reviews. It doesn't matter to them. Leave us alone. We're just small little independent podcasts. We're just trying to make it.
Right. We're not even making no money off this. Like we just
we paying money to bring you hashtag content.
Hashtag content. Good content at that.
That is one of the best things ever, by the way. Hashtag content. I love it. I love it. So
hashtag content and also hashtag branding. That's another favorite of mine.
True.
True. Yeah, so the Crown and Collards show is continuing on more or less as planned. We are taking this week off because it's Pride Week. And
happy Pride.
Yeah. Pride Week here in Portland. Also my birthday weekend. And while I wanted to get a show out, my esteemed co-host fell asleep, and I don't do solo shows. So that was Crown and Collards this week that you'll be hearing this. But we will be back after an intentional hiatus of 1 week. So,
True. So happy birthday also and as well.
I'll be excuse me.
True facts.
Okay, much better.
True facts. So, with that being said and that rousing introduction, let's get into the first segment, which is the School and Life segment. So, my school and life this week is I am still riding high from my birthday weekend. Last weekend.
Oh, yeah. Happy belated.
Thank you. And I had a great time. The new friends that I found or that I've come across in Dallas have really been very hospitable and welcoming. So we had a good time. We did things. I recorded a show. We ate I ate way too much fried chicken. Way too much.
Syntax error. Hello. There's no such thing as too much. What?
You know.
I mean, I ain't nothing but a guest here, but still.
So here's the thing. I thought the same thing. However, my body said, guess what? You are 34 now. That is too much fried chicken. And I said, so it's just a civil war, a bodily civil war, because I'm going to keep eating the chicken. And my body was like, bet. And so the next day I felt like shit.
Okay, so this is what I need to know. I need to know, was this like big box corporate chicken? Was this like corner store chicken?
This
like
what was homemade fried chicken?
Ooh, even better. Now, see, that's a hell of a way to go out. I will say, like,
true. No, so it was homemade fried chicken.
If I'm immobilized after homemade fried chicken, I am laying in bed like, girl, job well done.
Yes. It was homemade fried chicken, fries, and onion rings. Ooh. And then I had wine too.
Oh,
there were a lot of things going on.
Fuck. I'm here for it.
It was. Oh, I enjoyed it, but when I got home, because I had to make a drive from Dallas back home, my body was like, it ain't your birthday no more. And I was like, oh shit. Anyway, so my other school in life for this week is I've been listening to myself on podcasts. I've been trying to do this thing where I stop giving myself such a hard time. So I was listening to Ratchet Ramblings, and this past week on Ratchet Ramblings, I don't know what happened. I apologize because I'm sure someone might be offended. I was very, very sleepy during that recording, and that's all I'm going to say on that. But I also did a guest spot while I was up there in Dallas on a podcast called Random Tandem, and it's with two ladies. They are hilarious. They actually brought me on to talk about Pride, so that was the episode 39, I believe, called #DemRitas, because they were sipping on those they were what they were doing. Pineapple Ritas, but they were doing like 25-ounce cans. And that's basically death in an aluminum can. So, and I had wine, and it was a good time. So I've just been listening to myself this week, and then I was picking up some of the other podcasts that I listen to. Not as much, just because I've been in training at work, but even if I don't talk about it, I still listen to you guys' podcast when I have a chance. And that's really it. So, Bianca, what's your schooling life? What got you through this past week, or is getting you through?
So this past weekend,
water. Sorry,
I'm with it. I'm popular all of a sudden. Let me turn that off. No. So I think the main thing that's been buoying me really has been like the anticipation for Pride, because Portland does Pride a little different from a lot of places. The opening ceremonies now last over 2 days. Because what people found was it was like shit to do overload. And
right.
the degree that you want to do something on a given day of the week, we have two marches. We have the Greater Portland Pride March on Sunday, but then also on Saturday we have the Portland Trans Unity Pride March.
Ooh, okay.
So Saturday, like, you've got a chunk of your day ripped out, basically. You know, the time that you would usually do day parties and all white affairs and what have you.
Right.
And then Sunday being the day again of the big march, I mean, you kind of plan for that. But what wound up happening was it was like, yo, like, we really have like only Friday to sort of do these mingling, welcome activity kind of things, and it's not enough. So Portland party and event throwers have been using the fact that people are super willing to go out on Thursdays to start doing like comedy shows and like wine tastings and all kind of fun stuff beginning Thursday. So like you get 2 days of welcoming stuff and then 2 days of parading and waterfront ribaldry and just having just a jolly old clear ass time. As well as events all over the city. So you don't even necessarily have to be like down at the waterfront. And I'm just super excited for it. This is always meaningful to me intrinsically because this also is the week that marks the time that I moved out here. It was 2 years ago. In fact, I used the day of the week, not so much the actual physical counting date, but it was 2 years ago on this day where I took off. And then that year, my birthday was on Friday, and then I had like Pride stuff to do that Saturday and Sunday. Only I did none of it because I was brand new to the city and didn't want to be like, yo, it's my second day in town. What's going on? And me not knowing what shit was or who anybody was. So I've always had that sort of like zeal about, yo, I've got all year to get ready for Pride. And then it passes and like the next one is scheduled and it's always the same weekend. I've got all next year to get ready for Pride. So it's just like a lather, rinse, repeat kind of thing. And that's been the main thing keeping me going.
So is this your first Pride as Bianca?
This would be my second Pride. I previously identified as gender fluid at that time, and
so
it was Bianca turning the fuck up, and then Monday washing like the 2-day makeup off, and back to work as the old me. Except now, again, now that I'm full time, it's like, okay, this is like the one where it's like, this is when I decided to start doing everything socially and start doing all of the medicinal stuff and the legal stuff and so on and so forth. So
so the first Pride was the biggest
one yet. Like by next Pride I'll be a much more finished product, I guess you'd say.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Okay, I'm here for it. I feel like West Coast Prides are probably more fun, but I'm gonna check back in and see what kind of weekend you had. Pride and birthday weekend all wrapped into one. I'm here for it.
Yes, all these people out to celebrate me, and I am honored.
They are the ones that are being honored with your presence.
That's how I look at it.
That's how that's how you have to navigate life. So speaking of navigating, let's move on to the next segment. That is the Come Quick segment.
I'm gonna come, sir.
Oh yeah! So first up, this past week was the 2-year anniversary of the Pulse shooting that happened on June 12, 2016. As many of you probably will remember, and if you don't, you should. A gunman went into the Florida nightclub called Pulse, killed 49 people, wounded 53 others, and it was on quote unquote Latin night. So again, it's a 2-year anniversary, and I saw some articles about trying to say that it wasn't a hate crime, and he just randomly selected the place and asked where all the women were and all this other stuff. I'm like, after the fact, all of that really doesn't matter because it's still,
So I got 4 dozen people dead and
yeah,
hundreds of
yeah,
lives forever altered, thousands
correct.
of lives forever altered. 'Cause, I mean, even at a distance, I mean, you
Even
wonder,
at a distance, like
can I be next?
I can't even think about how many gay men and probably lesbian women and other identifying people that like to go out that just were shook to the core, because it wasn't just like a one-off type thing. 49, that's a lot of people dead and
Mhm.
53 others wounded. That's over 100 people affected physically. So I just wanted to bring that up. I know I didn't bring it up in the last episode, but that anniversary just passed. And I want to say, despite everything, we are still here. We're not going anywhere except maybe, to the Pride events, but we're
Mhm.
still here. Get used to it. We're still here. We're still going to fight. And that's just the end of it.
Yeah, there's been some situations right here where I live, where this group called the Proud Boys. I'm not going to give them any more press than that, but
Oh gosh.
they've been going around and like harassing queer people at queer events, and they harassed the queer couple leaving the grocery store, and it's like, okay, that's strange. Like, why would you do that? But
Right.
it's Pride Month, and it brings out the best of us, and it brings out the worst in them. And what I mean by them is those who have an active interest in making the lives of those who identify different as far as their sexual orientation or their gender identity. And that is enough to elicit like unthinkable amounts of hatred and fear and endless number of phobias
Right.
in these people. I actually have in my window, um, there was a commemorative sign for the victims of Pulse that was given out by the local LGBTQ center here. And it's in my window, and I have seen and heard people discussing, like, it says love conquers hate, and then I think it says we are Orlando on the other side, and it's got this list of names, and it's everyone who was a victim of the Pulse shooting. And it's a blue sign, and it's like the sky blue, and it's got like the rainbow colored like lettering and stuff on it. And sometimes even that is like, to me, like this sign of like this show of resistance in a way, where it's like,
Yeah.
I've got this in my easily identifiable bedroom window. If you want to start something, there's going to be something, kind of deal.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I agree with what you said. It definitely brings out or maybe not brings out, but probably highlights the worst, because we all know it's a year-round thing. It's not just around Pride when
Mhm.
they hashtag they start acting crazy and bothering people just trying to live their lives with a little bit of dignity and freedom. So again, the community is it's still here. We're not going anywhere. And I really wanted to just take this opportunity to honor the people that lost their lives that night.
Yes.
And in addition, the people who were wounded and everyone that was affected, there were, friends that heard about the shooting and, lost their friend and everything like that. So
Mm.
very somber. So we're going to move on to the next thing. And that is an article. So I found this article that said man attacks male friend with quote unquote sharp weapon for refusing to have sex with him. And I saw that headline and I said, okay, what kind of foolishness is this? We get attacked. Listen, it's like
I
you
had
get
the exact same response when I opened the article and read the headline, and I was like, all right, where's this going?
Exactly, because it's like, okay, we get attacked for having gay sex, then we get attacked for not having gay sex. Like, we can't win. But the article took a little bit of a different turn.
Right.
So
a little bit grossly understatement, by the way.
Correct. So 40-year-old attacked his 29-year-old friend in the western city of Pune, India. All the way in India, y'all.
Yes.
Allegedly attacked his friend with a sharp weapon. It is believed that the men were in a sexual relationship. So supposedly the two were out for a walk when the victim told the man he did not want to keep having sex after he recently got married. So he was trying to fly the straight and narrow. Anyway. So
try to veil.
Point of reference, gay sex is actually illegal under section 377 of the Indian Penal Code.
He said penal.
Yeah. Okay, this is serious.
I know.
The victim received injuries to his hand, but was otherwise fine. So they're looking for this man who attacked his friend, his lover, for all intent and purposes, it seems.
Right.
And then another tidbit that they threw on was that the Indian Supreme Court is set to hear arguments to overturn Section 377 of the Penal Code to decriminalize homosexual sex. And I believe that's next month, July.
That is next month. Usually comes after June, but no. Yeah, so we see in this article that, voluntarily causing hurt by dangerous weapons and means is very much like ironclad. Like, I'm surprised that it's like Section 324 of the Indian Penal Code. It should be like Section 6. Like, don't hurt people. But yeah, no, it's good that they are considering overturning this. Not for anything to do with the story, but just for the broader sense of like, yo, we got the numbers on this. Like, it's okay to participate in homosexual sex so long as it's consensual and all parties approve.
Right. I wonder if part of it was the reason why they put that bidding. And other than, I mean, it is important, but I also wonder if it's kind of trying to dive into the mind of the victim. It's like, well, maybe this wouldn't have happened if he felt comfortable continuing this sexual relationship. But I don't know. We don't have the specifics. There's not enough information, and he did get married, so I don't know.
And this was the younger guy in the situation who got married. So
correct, the 29-year-old.
So there's no telling if like his marriage is like
a sham or real or like a religious conversion type deal or a familial pressure situation.
None of which, by the way, excuses the fact that he got stabbed in the hand.
Correct. And this is why I have said it, and I believe one of my peers has talked about it. We actually talked about it together on this show about learning how to take rejection. Like someone saying, I don't want that peen, I don't want that bus anymore. Is no cause for you to get a machete and try to slice them. Like, come on, let's be honest and real.
Right. These things don't call for Excalibur. Like, get out of here.
At all. So glad that the man is not gravely injured, and good luck to the guy who did the attacking, because in my mind, I'm thinking if homosexual sex is illegal, it's not going to be looking too good for your boy once they catch him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, we know. The other guy has a little bit of plausible deniability. He's like, well, I'm married, so whatever he says goes down the drain because I'm married. Meanwhile, he's, walking around with Leonardo's sword going to town to be, and part of me, I know I just made a little joke, but part of me wonders if maybe his livelihood is in danger, beyond just the assault charge.
I
don't
know. Lost a social standing.
I mean, I'm wondering if maybe even his life might be in danger. I don't know what the climate is in India when it comes to gay people or LGBT people. So I just, I'm just thinking out loud on that one. But I don't know. At the same time, you can't be slicing people because they don't want to suck your dick no more. That's just not how life works. Anyway, moving right along. Glad that the younger man is fine, and good luck to you and your wife, sir, because this is a lot.
Yeah.
So we're going to shuffle right on over to the main topic for this week. And that is, we're actually going to be taking an inside look at transitioning because, as Bianca stated earlier in the show, she is fairly new to the transition. And I wanted to talk about a few things that I don't want to say are not talked about or highlighted, but I don't think are talked about enough. And that maybe people hearing it will help them understand some of the experience, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I was nervous about it because everyone has a different line, and I didn't want to be pushy, and I didn't want to cross any lines with you to make you feel uncomfortable or talk about anything that you didn't want to talk about. So feel free to share what you want to share and keep things private that you want to stay private.
Sure, yeah.
So first up, I want to talk about cost and the different elements of that, because in my mind, I don't think a lot of people factor in the cost of transitioning, because most people think estrogen, surgeries, things like that. But I'm thinking, in addition to that, like a new wardrobe and makeup and who knows what else, legal type things, documents and things getting changed. So talk a little bit about your experiences thus far with the pricing of your transition.
All right. So before I get into the pricing on what it would cost me to have anything done to my body, do you know how much it costs for a baby to be born, like as of 2013?
Is that with or without insurance?
Without.
No. I mean, I'm sure it's in the tens of thousands, but I'm not sure.
So uncomplicated vaginal birth, so they will call it simple vaginal birth, goes about 9,600.
Okay.
That's just to snatch you out. And uncomplicated cesarean section, so simple cesarean, is about 15,800. That's just to get here. So, like, don't think that any number I'm going to spout going forward is going to be lower than those. It's not the case.
Gotcha. Reference. Got it.
Okay. So, again, you mentioned costs, and you mentioned, both medical costs, which to get your hands on the hormones can run in the triple digits for not a very long time supply.
Mm-hmm.
And this is before you start talking about endocrinologist meetings and meetings with various mental health therapists, which in the state of Oregon you need 2 therapists to sign off and say how between the ears, like, this is something you actually need.
Right. Okay.
Which I always say, if you really want a snapshot of how ridiculous this is, imagine having to call 2 electricians over every time a light bulb went out in your house.
Okay. Yeah.
So again, that's the easy stuff, right? You can schedule a therapist meeting and you can schedule an endocrinologist meeting. Then you have to have consultations done to see, like, if your levels with your endocrinologist stuff are up to snuff. Also factors like body weight, BMI, body hair. So you're talking about possible laser or electrolysis hair removal for any surgeries that you may want to have done, certainly below the waist, but also potentially above the waist as well. So those consultations cost money and time. Those doctors don't work evenings and weekends, because which doctors do other than urgent care, right?
Right.
And so you're taking time off from work, assuming you have a job, because people don't necessarily love employing trans people, and particularly in front-facing positions.
Correct.
So that's the real hidden cost right there. The fact that, again, we're more likely to be working like low-paying jobs, at low hours, not guaranteed insurance, living in less than ideal circumstances, which may impact the between the ears stuff, which may mean the therapist may be a little more hesitant to write your approval letters, to basically go forth with your body modifications, basically. Because insurance will not provide those without the presence of those letters. They just won't do it. They'll consider it cosmetic instead of necessary, and you will be on the hook again. I mentioned, just to snatch you out of there, we're looking at 15,000 or 10,000. Whew. You're looking low end 25 grand in the US.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So what all does the 25 grand entail?
That covers, again, like the outpatient or inpatient surgery rather, which is a double-digit hours long process, which involves all sorts of forming new parts out of old parts that I really don't want to get into at great length because this is a family-friendly show. But there are videos about this everywhere online that will explain in as much detail or as little detail as you would like. I'm crossing my legs just talking about this.
Oh God. So what I meant by that question when I said what does the 25K entail is this kind of like a ballpark running tally of the consultations?
Oh no, this is to go into the knife. Like this is
okay.
like,
So this is just for like
you go in for 11 hours, like you walk out with the bill of that much money if you are doing the stud insurance.
Okay. And so is that just bottom surgery, or is that
as far as I know, that's just bottom.
Lord Jesus.
Yeah.
Whew.
Top surgery, which is an even bigger fight in the whole determination of cosmetic versus necessary. Again, also pushes up into the 5 figures, possibly lower if you're down to go to discount chop shop and, you know, have your boobs bolted on and, you know, looking like Tracy McGrady's eyes.
Oh, see, we don't need to do that. But I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Everyone knows what I meant when I said that. But no, okay, so yeah, and then again, we talk about a wardrobe, right? And so
wardrobe, makeup,
building a simple wardrobe is doable via the likes of secondhand shopping and, you know, maybe having that one friend who might be similar in dimension to you, who just wants to get rid of old clothes and doesn't want to take them to Goodwill, so we'll give them to you for free.
Right.
Funny that I didn't have that friend actually. I went the opposite direction. I was the one who, like, I'd hit a good lick on a good weekend of work, and you know, I'd go to one of my little sources that I could buy shoes from, and of the 4 pairs of shoes I bought, 3 worked, 1 didn't. I was giving that 4th pair away to friends who I felt like, hey, these might work for you. I don't really consider that a cost because, again, somebody that I know and trust and love got good use out of it. But still, it's an expensive endeavor in that way where it's like I'm playing trial and error. And let me mention now that some people only do the shopping online because there's that social fear of, we're going to get into like the emotional aspect of it later. There's a social fear of daring to cross over like to the opposite aisles or the opposite sections. I always quote that, you know, Payless put the largest men's shoes right next to the largest women's shoes for that reason. So that you could mosey on over, and if somebody were coming down the aisle, you could mosey on back and pretend like you were doing nothing.
Yeah.
But no, so there's that. It's possible to do it, but if you want clothing that's going to hold up and it's going to last over time, and then you talk about getting clothing that might be like office appropriate if you're working in those lines, or at worst, just clothes that'll hold up for more than like 1 season or 2 seasons. then you're looking to get pretty spendy, and again, you're still battling that same social stigma of like, this is my body as is, and it may be changing, so my sizes are going to change, and hormones are going to do things to my body that are going to make my sizes change even more, my dimensions change. So it's a lot. It's a lot of volleying, and I've been told, hey, expect that you might lose a shoe size, and I'm like, and all the shoes I've collected over this time, are you crazy?
Ooh, it's like, do you know the money that I've spent?
Give me death over that liberty. No. But yeah, so there's all these things, right? And there's all these things to consider. And again, makeup, there's a lot of trial by error there, unless again you're that bold soul who was down to go to the likes of a Mac or an Ulta or wherever's makeup counter and have a beautician like fit you basically for like an everyday look, and then like a party look, and then like a formal look, and then like a just running errands look.
Right.
Going full time, I have learned that I go through makeup a lot. Like I go through a lot of foundation, for example. Like I'm buying a new bottle of that basically with every check. Like,
oh shit.
Yeah.
Shit. So I'm trying to think of other physical thing. What about hair?
Yeah, so you gotta learn how to do hair. And for me, God, it's funny you mentioned this. I'm getting my hair done tomorrow, actually.
Come on.
And yeah, so there's the learning of hair. And the thing that, as a little boy, you may not necessarily get to learn or have much proximity to is how to style hair. For me, I'm particularly lucky in that I have a very curly hair texture. So all it really takes is like moisturizing it and just staying on top of it.
Right.
To make sure that to ensure that it looks feminine in some way, in some quantifiable, some subjectively quantifiable way.
Right.
But what about the girl who doesn't have that? What about the girl who has a thicker, coarser line of hair? What about the girl who has less manageable hair just in general?
Right. Or what about the girl that is trying to grow it, so she's doing wigs and stuff like that?
And wigs are another cost because wigs require upkeep, and
yeah,
you can get a party wig, you can get a Halloween wig from Spirit when they open every September for $14 or whatever it is now. But there'll be occasion wigs, there'll be moment wigs. There won't be a like live-in day-to-day wig.
Right.
The decent ones, I mean, you're starting at 40, and then you could skyrocket into the triple digits rather easily with just one or two different wigs.
Oh, Jesus.
And this is particularly important when we think about those who transition older in life, who may have thinning hair or have lost hair already.
Right.
And may on one hand have worn the mask long enough to have some capital built up to where they can actually do the shopping in this way, but then they've got to get it styled, and again they've got to overcome that social barrier of how do I walk into a store for the first time, having never done this, and ask for the help that I know I want, but feel awkward about requesting, and some people just don't do it. And like that's the thing, I don't want to get lost in any of this. Some people won't do it because of the stigmas that are attached specifically to the thing that they want. So
right.
Yeah, so there's that. Again, like I mentioned that in clothing, I mentioned that in hair, I mentioned that in makeup.
Right. So it's like just good to highlight that, because not every trans woman decides to do all of the same things that you do or that other trans women do. So
Exactly.
Some of the costs, I guess you could argue, are voluntary, but then some of them aren't, like those consultations and things of that nature. I think that's probably
you absolutely have to do those, and those are absolutely not cheap.
Pretty standard across the board. But yeah, like the makeup and the hair and all that, it just depends on what kind of woman they want to be. Am I right? Am I in the right ballpark with that?
Yeah, definitely. Because like my style, like I skew highly feminine. That's just what I like. That's what I like on me. That's what I choose to present to the world. So that's heels, and that's like dresses of various lengths, and that's shoulders out sometimes and not out other times, and shorts and things like that. And some girls may be a little more conservative or modest, and some girls may be okay with just like working a little mix and match of a few basic pieces. Some want to go like the full regalia and just like live every day just glammed out to the max.
Right.
Like I said, I fall somewhere between that. Like I have my moments where I pick that definitely, like this weekend, for example. But on average, I mean it's summertime now, even though my weather outside kind of looks more like February than June. But no, like I, commonly find me in like a maxi skirt and like a basic, t-shirt, sandals or something, easy basics. Um, Hair washed and moisturized, makeup present but basic, not too flamboyant or anything like that. But again, I don't say that to be like respectability politics with it. I say it to say that it's my choice.
Right. Which is, yeah, it's very, very important to highlight that it's a choice, and not every transgender woman's journey is the same.
I was gonna say yeah, because like I will tell you now, there's no like stereotypical singular closet, dare I say, for from trans woman to trans woman. Like I will look at some of the things I see other girls like me wearing, and I'm like, yo, like that's so pretty. Why didn't I think to buy like that cut or that fabric or that style, or like I saw that and I passed it up and wow, it just looks so good on like our body type. Like that's so it's drawing that inspiration. But again, knowing that the reason I'm inspired by it is because again we're just not the same.
Right.
And we don't see things the same. We don't always necessarily feel the same about ourselves. So
Right. And I think that should be relatable to most people, because most people can look at, like, as a gay man, I can look at other men and be like, I'm not like him. I'm doing my own thing. Or I would imagine, a woman, and especially probably non-binary people, because they really, much like transgender people, they go against the grain. So it's that individualism, and it really applies in this instance. So earlier you mentioned, or we talked a little bit about consultations and all of that kind of stuff.
mhm.
So what about the healthcare aspect? How does that factor into the experience?
The biggest thing with that is I think listening to your community. Um, and the reason I say listening to the community is because like a singular bad experience can absolutely torpedo one's confidence in like going forward with this. And so you want to like rely on the words of people who've been there before and say, hey, I went to so and so doctor, they were awesome.
Right.
I heard that this clinic has this doctor and that doctor. You probably want to do like Dr. B instead of Dr. A because Dr. B is a lot more attentive and has a lot more experience with people like us. Dr. A, dare we say, is just still learning still. So that's a big thing as far as the healthcare is concerned, because again, like it's possible to swing for the fences and miss, and that can be costly. That can mean not getting the appropriate dosage on your hormones. That could mean getting surgeries, pushback, 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 pushback constantly. It can mean so many different things. So getting good health care, like there's like, if I asked you right now, like, hey, like say someone in your life was considering transitioning, like how would you direct them to, the appropriate health care? The first thing you do is you Google it.
Right. Correct.
And from there, like you were doing a lot of trial by fire, and I do mean a lot. Because again, you need two therapists to say that between the ears you're okay. It might take 4 therapists, it might take 10 therapists to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a matter of trying one once and feeling like, yo, this person didn't like really take the fact that I'm transitioning seriously, and you got to discard them, and you got to go through this again. And don't forget, you have to pay that therapist to get told all those things.
Right. So add into the cost again.
Mhm. So then you go to your second therapist. You're like, oh, this one's amazing, and like you ask them, hey, like, can you recommend like maybe one of your colleagues who can like get me fast tracked to my second letter? And they mention someone, and that person's a nightmare. So now that's 3 therapists down. And again, you pay that person too. And now you pay two
Right.
people to tell you the things you don't necessarily need to hear. And at that point, it's like, okay, so it's 2 who weren't good for me and only 1 who was. How much hope should I be holding on to here? So that the mental drain on it, like that's another thing I don't want to get lost here is the fact that like this can be emotionally taxing if like, one thing goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It can be enough to make people maybe not necessarily like quit, but it can be enough to make people stop for a really long time.
Right. Very discouraging.
Mhm.
Okay. So what about medical healthcare? Like we talked about the therapist and everything, but what about your actual like
So like
physical doctor?
so like your care physician is going to be someone who again works with the endocrinologist to make sure that your hormone levels are appropriate for your age and your size and your lifestyle and everything else. These are measured in nanomoles per liter. Estrogen and testosterone. Those are the big two. There are others, but let's just focus on those two. And for a typical adult man, he would have about 22 nanomoles per liter, 25. It's kind of like the range of testosterone produced, and around 1 or 2 nanomoles of estrogen. Both are present in all bodies.
Right.
And for a woman, it's more or less flipped. And the thing with the hormone regulation is with testosterone, you have to stop it and you have to add estrogen. So you got, what they call T blockers, and then you have the estrogen, and then you have, again, these other substances that you can take via patch or via pill or via shot or whatever. And they want to make sure that like you're progressing basically. And there comes a point, this is for all of those who feel like trans athletes have an unfair advantage, there comes a point where a trans woman who is well on her way into her hormone regulation will have less testosterone in her body than most cis women.
Right, because of the blockers.
So that blocker will shut that whole shit down, and I mean there'll be trace amounts of it in your system, but like you'll be estrogen the fuck out, and you'll have less testosterone than those you're competing against. So that was a big social media thing I got into a couple of days ago.
That's
we
an
had to actually illustrate this. I was like, hey, like to have estrogen actually work, testosterone has to not be present, so it has to be blocked. It has to be stopped from existing in your bloodstream, and then the estrogen can start to do its work. And for the estrogen to do its work, the testosterone in a male bodied person that naturally produces testosterone in the majority, it has to be so low functioning as to basically not exist.
Right.
At that point, you've negated the benefit of having had testosterone in the first place. At that point, so
especially over a period of time.
Yeah, it goes more and more, and dare I say, you lose more and more muscle mass. You fatigue faster and longer. Ability and capacity to carry, can drop significantly in some cases. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's minor, but it will drop.
Okay.
So yeah, and then you have to be on top of like your own like personal regulation. You have to make sure that whatever means of ingesting you go through. You've got to be on top of it. You got to be scheduled, and you got to be routine. And your body has to get used to it, so that you can become that person that you want to be.
Right, and you're not wasting money because you're not following the regimen.
You decide you want to do this once every 6 weeks, and it's like, yo, where are my results? And it's like, your results are waiting on you to step it up and get more regular.
Right. Doesn't work like that, beloved. Okay. Are there any other like hidden or not as well known healthcare costs that come with it? With the experience?
I think the big thing is just making sure your T's are crossed and your I's and J's are dotted, because again, one miss thing and you could be hit with a bill that is in the quadruple digits, has a comma in it.
Yeah. Listen.
And again, we're already talking about a group of people that are highly marginalized and not exactly working ball and out of control jobs. So something like that can be like financially devastating.
Correct. Okay, so you mentioned earlier the emotional aspects of it. First, I want to talk about acceptance. And you did mention during the introduction that your announcement, I guess, has been very well received, mostly positive and everything. So, have you had any instances where you did not get that acceptance from
Oh
someone
yeah.
that you were expecting it from, and how have you dealt with that?
Um, I mean, yeah, there's been various denials here and there in my life. People who are like, "What? No way!" And like that's not like the "what? No way" of surprise. It's the "what? No way" like transgender people aren't real. Um,
Oh, even worse.
Variant
Jesus.
of that. So and you know it doesn't take much mental acuity to know the difference between someone who is like startled, "Wow, I never would have thought you," like, that's one reaction, and how I feel about that is how I feel about it. But someone who gives you again the "what are you talking about? I don't I like you telling me you're trans," and they're like, "I disagree with like the idea of trans people," and it's like, I'm still right in front of you, and I just told you that I am trans ipso facto. Like, come on, get on board, Uh,
Right.
so there's that. Like I saw a video just a few hours ago, right before we started recording, where this pastor at the Edge of Salvation Ministries or whatever the fuck it's called, decided to crash a Pride Week event at a library where a drag queen was reading story time to children and their parents. This is again a ticketed event. It's opt-in. Like no one's being like forced to go to this or anything like that for the "y'all are shoving this down our throat," group of people. Like that subsect of people who aren't listening to this show. I hope that anyway.
Oh no. It's not for you.
But
No.
no, so that subset of people, which this church certainly like, they definitely fall within that realm. This guy decides he's gonna crash this book reading again, just this innocuous reading of a story to children.
Mm-hmm.
And like he walks in and he's like, "Hi, my name is Pastor." And as soon as he said his name was Pastor, like the whole room started booing him, and I thought it was fucking hilarious. Um, and I used that illustration to say I think the world needs more of that. Because again, they knew the second he walked in what he was all about.
Right.
As soon as he opened his mouth, they knew what he was all about, and they knew that nothing that he was about was anything good that we needed to imbue upon our children. Because, as we know, children are perceptive and will generally do pretty well with the things we produce to them. Because to children, everything's different, everything's new, everything is an opportunity to learn. Including the concept of there being trans people or gender nonconforming people or non-binary people. The real only lack of acceptance that exists is from people again who just want to like live in this alternate reality in which they say that transgender people aren't real, but like something that's not real, like my dog will not shoot lasers from his eyes. That's not real.
Right.
Like, that's in the realm of like in this universe that we occupy cannot be done. Like I cannot pick up the entire city of Rome and move it next to Paris. Like that's something that's worth not believing in. Like if I started saying that, then you could call me delirious and all sorts of things. The fact that I tried manhood on for 31 years and didn't feel it was a good fit, that's pretty real, I would say.
Right. And you don't get to disagree with my lived experience.
Right.
Like this
That
is my
would be
life.
like saying I disagree with the color yellow. Like it's a color. Like we can see between, orange and what
Green
yeah, we can see between orange and green there lies this color that we have, deemed yellow.
or red. Probably orange and red.
No, orange.
But yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, because yellow can create orange and can also create green. So yeah, no. So
Yeah.
it's we can see that between there is this color that again that we have communally decided is to be called yellow. We don't call it teal. We don't call it silver. We don't call it pumpkin. We don't call it fly on the wall. We call it yellow. So to say trans people aren't real, transgender does not exist. It's like, buddy, like the greater medical community has already accepted us. What are you on about? So that level of non-acceptance can also come from your peers, can also come from your community, can also come from people who knew like you as you were and expect you to always be that. And to those people, I say, first off, the only standards you can hold people to are the standards they set for themselves. Secondly, it costs nothing to not be an asshole. Like,
listen, minding your business is nutritious and delicious, and it is free 99.
indeed, free 50 if you want the discount.
Yeah.
But no, you deal with no shortage of folks who will tell you, "Oh, but I only knew you as so and so, and your mama named you this. I'm gonna call you this." And it's like, well, that was a funny line in the movie, but like, you're not landing the punchline here. It's not taken. Like, stop it. You're embarrassing.
Right. Which I always think is interesting because it's like when you meet someone, if they say, "My name is Jerome," you're not gonna say, "Okay, Randy." Well, I mean, white people do that sometimes. But anyway, you're gonna say, "Okay, Jerome," and you're gonna call them by Jerome. And if Jerome comes back and says, "You know what, you can just call me Jay," okay. In any other instance, you call people what they tell you to call you. I don't know why it's such a foreign concept when it comes to transgender people. It's like you want to keep people in this box and you want to maintain this level of control by saying, no, I get to determine what I'm going to call you based on XYZ. I don't know where that respect just evaporates. I don't get it.
There's a great meme that plays on that really well, and it says, if you think trans people are offended that you call them the wrong pronouns, call a cis person the wrong pronouns.
Ooh, especially a man.
Yeah, call him. Refer to a man and say, "Hey, she just left her package at the door."
Hell, you could. Matter of fact, you don't even have to take it that far. You can just get on Twitter and look at how the mostly black cishet men lose their shit when someone calls them cis in a tweet.
I almost said something I shouldn't say, but no. You're correct. I remember when that was. I remember when that was common. I miss those days. Like, bring that back. If you want to bring any era of problematic Twitter back, bring that back.
Right.
But no, yeah, there was definitely this outpouring of like annoyedness. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, when people would dare to just say, "Hey, like, cis," instead of sir or whatever, or guy or whatever word they would even use.
Right.
And yeah, they would lose their minds. And another riff on that, while I'm here, is this whole notion of like, I call everybody dude, and I'm like, all right, so you go up to your straight partner, the one is straight, a dude, and that's gonna mean dudes he's fucked, since dude is so neutral. It's so neutral. Ask him how many dudes he's fucked. He should have an answer, right? He shouldn't get angry at you because everybody's dude. I call my sister dude. I call my aunt dude. I call my biology lab partner who happens to be a girl dude. I call all these people dude. Yay. Yeah, so go ask that cis guy how many dudes he's fucked and get back to me with his anger. Because there won't be an answer. There will be anger.
Oh, yes. There will be flipping of the out. So what about other emotional aspects? And I want to touch on the community aspect a little bit too. So it's up to you which way you want to go first.
Let's see. We'll continue with the emotional stuff, and I will just openly admit right now that some days I'll wake up and I look at my body and I just take it all in composite, and I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like this is before I've confronted any other member of planet Earth, waking, dead, alive, whatever. It's me in my own quiet time where I'm like, shit, I'm gonna have to shave my legs today because I'm planning to wear, shorter dress. This sucks. I don't want to do that. Like, I have days like that regularly, not all the time, but regularly. So then I have days where I'm like, girl, let's go. Like, you are the shit. Like, all caps. Like, let's do this. And so the emotional volleying, I mean, I will say I've never felt happier since like making the proclamation to myself in December that like this was a thing I needed to do. Um,
But it's not all sunshine and giggles and packs of Skittles. It's
oh, by no means is it that. Like
because I think a lot of people they what they see the representation of transgender, mostly women, because we hardly ever see any transgender men.
Although, let me say right now, since you've put that in the ether, and then we'll get back to the topic at hand. Um, major love to like the transgender men in the world.
Oh yes, definitely.
May the visibility expand. May I make way for you to speak about your experiences. That's why I've kind of shied away from mentioning much about like the trans man experience because I don't know it.
Correct.
I know it through the friends I have that are trans men and the things they tell me about it, but I don't know it to make those stories my own and to speak on it. So this episode obviously skews very trans woman because that's who's in the recording booth right now.
Right. And I'm actually
not a takeaway at all from any aspect of the trans man community. You are loved, you are valid, you belong, you exist, and to the degree that you deal with bullshit of a different turn or even a common turn, like I feel for you and I'm here for you and I got open arms and big old hugs.
Yes, all of that. And I'm glad you mentioned that because it is skewed, but it's skewed for a purpose. And I want to do the same thing with the trans man one day. So I need to get on that. But anyway, back to the conversation at hand. So I'm trying to think other emotional aspects because again, it's I think people kind of get the timelines conflated. And it's like this person is trans, they're coming out as a trans woman, and then the next time you see them, they've made significant strides in their transition without, and the whole thing is not chronicled. So I think a lot of people have this misconception that it's easy and that it's quick. And so I'm glad that you were open about just the day-to-day struggle of sometimes you wake up and it's like, this is some bullshit.
Yeah, no, there are, I mean, and that's on this side of knowing that this is my truth. Like,
correct. And I was going to say, because a lot of people, I think the relatability would be you have something where you made a decision, you said, this is it. And even then it sucks. If you decide, hey, I'm an artist and I need to make sure that I draw and do this, while you wake up some days and you probably are like, I don't want to fucking draw today, or this sucks. I don't like this that I did. Hell, even to bring it home for this podcast and probably relatable to you because you do a podcast as well. Some weeks I'm like, this is some bullshit. This show sucks. It's trash. Throw it all away. Even though I know, like, I have these pep talks and I'm like, there is still work that I want to do with this podcast. Is it going to be a long running show? Who knows? But I know that there's still work that I want to do. But sometimes it sucks. Now that's a very elementary, I would say, comparison to what you're coming with, but I'm trying to think of ways to make it relatable to people because sometimes people, a lot of times I should say, people aren't able to do that for themselves.
Sometimes you have to veer a little bit to like reach that point of relatability, and then you can really like draw them back into like what it is you're talking about.
Correct.
A great example of this is, you know, again, when I'm having these discussions about like my gender identity and my gender presentation and the disdain that can occasionally come from like the fingers and or lips of the cis black men of the world, cis straight black men of the world. And the way to reel them in is to say, hey, like you wouldn't tell a white person that they get to define what racism is. How do you get to tell me then what transphobia is or what sexism is or whatever? And many of them don't take that particularly well for some reason.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Even though it's, you know, more or less the same thing. It's not exactly the same.
Yeah, I've been seeing that. I mean, it's nothing new, but definitely anytime you try to make that comparison just to broaden someone's mind, when you make that comparison with race and anything else, is all hell breaks loose, and it's just like, I'm trying to bring it to your level, and here you are going the fuck crazy. So okay, so we talked about the emotional aspect, and it is a doozy. I can just imagine. And I feel for and I send out love to transgender people who may not be in the same position as you to feel empowered, even if you have your bad days, because we all have our bad days. So speaking of empowerment, I want to know a little bit more about your community. And when I say community, I don't mean necessarily the outside, like the geographical area. I mean like the community that you build, that you surround yourself with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the thing about that is the benefit of being trans, if I may tug on that word a little bit at each end, is that I got to pick my own name, and in another way, I got to pick my own family as well. Because we all say like the love of like we didn't pick the family that like we were born to necessarily, right? Um, but the people who meet you in the middle and love you as you came to them sort of become your new family. And in that regard, making the move that I did, where I knew basically nobody and got to set my own sort of direction on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the first time in my own life, again at 32 years old, back when I made this move, I can't say enough how that like more or less saved my life. Um, because everyone who I mean, not that everyone has like been worthy or everyone stayed around necessarily, but those who have, like those who have had that meaningful impact on my life, in my life, and with my life,
Mm-hmm.
like these are my people. Like these are the people who, like I always say, all roads led us here to doing this show, for example. Because we're probably not doing this if I'm not out as a trans woman.
Right.
Um, But yeah, community's been great. I mean, there is your itinerant degree of infighting and or disagreements and or differences of opinion and or differences of life, experience that colors all those things. But on the whole, um, being in a city that's three quarters white, but also is a city that people come to as sort of a haven to transition, has kind of given me both ends of it, right? Where like I curate my black, and POC friendships with a certain zeal and a certain amount of love and attention and appreciation, all those things. And then there's like a second layer of that I give, or not even second layer, but like a different type of layering that I give to my trans community. Those who I meet with weekly at a support group. Slightly different set of needs. A lot of them that kind of look the same, feel the same, sound the same. But yeah, they get a different version of all my love because these are the people who are like me. These are like my mirror images. These are people who are going through comparable struggles as to what I'm going through. And so put it all together and you get this really awesome, this really sort of magical sense of wow, like I got out there and I put myself out there and I did it. And like I built the friends that I've always wanted, and I've built the sense of community that I've always wanted. I've built the second family that I've always wanted, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to say like neatly and succinctly what that means. Like it just deserves all of the big word phrasing and all of the big word praising and all of the large capacity just like showering of adoration on it that I just can't give it, or else this show would be 4 hours long.
But no, I get it. I think you can wrap it up by just saying it is very important to you, and I'm glad that you were able to choose that family. And I'm glad that you had so many people that were already in your life that were accepting, because again, a lot of times we see story outside of actresses and some of the more famous transgender women, you don't often see positive stories. You don't often see these women being able to come out and saying it wasn't always great, but I had a good support system. You know, I was able to curate a a community, a family that I knew would support me and that I could depend on. A lot of times the stories that you see about transgender women are so mired and they're real. I'm not saying they're not real, but a lot of times it's the negative aspects. It's the judgment about sex work and all of those different types of things, you know, or a lot of times it's worse. It's the fatalities.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very happy. Like, you have no idea how much my heart swells to just, number one, seeing your journey over the past, what, 2.5 years?
Let's say 2 years. But certainly how public I've gone with it in the past 6 months, I think, is sort of the.
Well, because I remember when you came out as gender fluid.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
that was about a year ago that I
Yeah,
came out that way. But
I'm
yeah.
thinking the whole thing. So yeah, probably about what, 2 years. So just to see you happy and flourishing and having people around you, seeing the pictures that you post on Facebook and smiling and living your best life makes me very, very happy.
Oh, thank you.
So the I think that's a good transition to the last thing that I want to talk about. And maybe this will be quick, maybe it won't be. But since we did just mention the negative aspects of the transgender experience, especially for women, I want to talk a little bit about safety.
Mhm.
Now, just being a transgender woman, I think that you have safety concerns that will be much more urgent than us I don't know, a cisgender person.
Mhm.
But other elements that I'm thinking of, because you do ride sharing and you have so many different people that you come across. So are there any types of precautions that you just kind of naturally adopted for your safety? And are there any that are specific to the types of things that you do in your life?
Yeah, so I'd say the big one's obvious. I do carry pepper spray, and I also, when walking to my car between venues or whatever, I definitely do the key between the knuckles thing. Um, I, yes, have the benefit of being 6'4" and broad-shouldered and what have you, but I also have the drawback of being 6'4" and broad-shouldered and all, because it makes me a easily like noticeable target.
Right.
Like
I'm easily
something,
identifiable.
something's different about that one,
Right.
And so yeah, so again, having the pepper spray and having the key between the knuckles are like just defense mechanisms that I knew were two that like would be helpful for me to have just right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I've also done self-defense classes that I've taken so that I can learn how to use skills that I may necessarily not have needed to know beforehand. Because once upon a time, it was expected that like you should just be able to overpower them, and that would be good enough. Um, but now I'd be trying to overpower someone maybe in clothing they're not so used to maneuvering in, and also the possibility of having heels on or whatever. So it's like, oh, so that's how I would want to approach that, or that's how I'd want to have my weight centered, or that's how I'd want to, you know, defend myself in this way should some, X, Y, or Z happen. So there's been those things. Thankfully, I don't have to roll the safety stuff into the cost thing, although some might, because I was able to find those things for free.
Okay.
Community led free self defense training, which I am super thankful for, even though, again, I still haven't had to use those things yet. There's also, again, the notion of the common misgendering and the potential violence that could come with if I were to correct somebody. Like, what the fuck do you mean you're a girl? Da da da. And then like they like fly off the handle and want to act out in that way.
Right.
So one precaution that I've put in is that I don't do strip club pickups at night unless I see that the account belongs to a woman.
Okay.
Because the last thing I want in my car at X o'clock in the morning is large groups of boisterous men talking about, titties they looked at and how they totally wanted to go home with this one. But I'm like, you're in the car with me, so clearly that's not happening.
Right.
And very boorish conversation that I had the benefit of knowing took place before I transitioned in that job. And thus sort of, again, built in this safety measure where like, okay, I can see where the pickup is, but I can't see who I'm picking up. And then I see that I'm picking up like Robert, and it's like, nope, canceling. I don't care if it's Robert and 3 women. Like, I'm still canceling because I don't want to take that risk of it being Robert and 3 men instead. So,
right.
Yeah, I will gladly pass those on to the next person, and it's my hope that they get someone who is in some way more willing to deal with that. Like, I wouldn't want to pass it on to like. I mean, again, I don't know I'm doing this, but I wouldn't want to pass it on to a woman and be like, nope, not my problem. But what I am doing is I am passing it on to the next person and saying, not my problem, because I'm looking out for me in the end.
Right. So that's interesting that you say that, because I don't know if I've ever, I mean, I have, but I guess I've never thought of specific examples of that constant vigilance, which, God, I sound like Dodgeball the movie. But it's true.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like,
it's
something to consider.
The verbiage fits. It's a constant thing of, because I think of the little that I do as far as safety precaution. I'm very aware when I'm walking. I'm the type that gets in the car and I'll hurry up and lock the doors and I'll look around and I'm checking for noises and all that kind of stuff. But if you ask me, well, do you have pepper spray or mace? No. Do you walk with keys in between your, no, I don't. I haven't taken self-defense classes. I don't, a lot of things that admittedly I take for granted, just being a cisgendered man, to the point where in most situations people are not going to bother me. So it's,
yeah, again, those are things I went from I don't have to think about this to I do have to think about this. And
every day, literally all day, every day.
Another thing, again, with the rideshare driving is like, honestly, when I'm doing these late pickups and I see that there's a woman on the account, I light up because I'm like, okay, like here I am, a woman giving another woman a safe ride home. Like she doesn't have to worry about feeling threatened or like assaults on the table possibly, or that like some person's gonna know that like at this time she's only going home, so this is where she lives. And if the guy gets a glimpse and sees, and we know these like extreme worst case scenarios that are possible, I'm not gonna enumerate them.
Right.
I feel like me doing the driving, especially I really only do the driving at night. Even though they hear my voice again, obviously I get this very deep voice, but to know that they're present in the car with someone who identifies as a woman, I think kind of takes some of the edge off of the, will this be the night I get the weird or awkward or whatever driver, and they see me and it's like, okay, that's probably not happening. So
that's interesting. And I from what it sounds like, there's a level of comfort really on both ends.
That's what I hope anyway. And again, like I mean, like I said, I mentioned strip clubs, but like I make a different concession for bars and for other venues from where I'll pick up like people with men's names on their accounts. There's something in particular about the strip club, like just that adrenaline rush or that.
Oh, trust me, I know. I did a drop off to the strip club, and I was like, "Get out of my car, get out." Because they started casually talking about doing coke, and they got a meeting on Monday, and I was like, "Oh my God, please get out." I can only imagine what they were like after, or even. You mentioned strip clubs specifically, but I'm thinking, and maybe no, I wouldn't think it would be much different, but the few times that I've done it, picking up from bars at night, like when they're leaving the bar, and it's just they get in, and it's I don't men are just oh god,
That's why I said the bar's a mixed bag.
yeah, I can see that being a
It,
mixed bag.
it could be like that I'm picking up an employee, or it could be that I'm picking up someone who's just really tired and falls asleep in the car right away, or picking up a couple, or even picking up a group or whatever. But like they might not be the type to have that sort of that personality type where like they're just gonna bramble on and on and on about like their strip club experience or their bar experience. Like it's happened like once or twice in the almost 3,000 rideshare rides I've given.
Ooh, come on, numbers.
It's happened once or twice where guys have just lamented, "Yo, like this girl in the bar was so hot, and I didn't really get to get her number." Da da da. Like there's that. But I think that there's a particularly, like we mentioned earlier, dehumanizing element that they impart upon the women who work in strip clubs.
Right.
That just leads to a much grosser, much more salacious feeling conversation. And
Right. That makes sense.
again, that's something I don't ever truly want to subject myself to. Like if I'm picking up Janet and Paul is in the car with her, like I kind of feel like they're going to have a little bit more of a nuanced conversation about like what they witnessed and dances they liked and what have you. But when it's like, oh, I'm picking up Paul and also Michael, Bruce, and Ken are getting in the car, it's like, oh fuck.
It's like, no, thank you.
I cannot drive fast enough to get these people out of my car.
Yeah, I get it. I know I've done that before. And I picked up couples when they get to arguing, I'm like, let me just step on this gas a little bit because y'all got to get the fuck out of my car. Oh, and it's funny because it's always the woman that's like, I'm so sorry that and the man's like, come on. And it's like, oh my god, like please don't be on the news tonight. Oh god. Okay, so this has been a very informative conversation, and not that I told it myself as being knowledgeable about the trans experience, but I've learned a lot. So the last thing I want to cap the conversation with is actually more of a reminder, and I want it done in your words rather than mine, and that is the difference between sexual identity and gender identity.
Okay, really
Or
easy.
sexual orientation, whichever word.
So gender identity is how I feel about me. Like if I were alone in the world, I would probably identify as a woman. I would probably make the same sartorial choices that I make. I would more or less comport myself as if I were the last woman on the planet because that's who I would be. Don't know what the hell I'd do with, again, these sartorial choices or whatever. And I know a lot of it comes down to that or like how I feel between the ears or what have you. So let's expand on that and let's go socially. I've always felt comfortable being, well, again, now having lived this experience enough, I have been in the presence of like all women's, majority women's groupings, and I felt much more at home in those ways.
Right.
In ways that, not to say that manhood as preference to women's company is inherently bad or wrong for straight men or whatever. But the way I feel about me is I feel like, I was born male and I had these lifelong expectations foisted upon me for how my life would chart based on the fact that when I came out, the doctor slapped my ass and said, it's a boy, yay. I got to experience a bit of the world. And I will tell you from a very young age, I always felt different. Which I feel like I should have mentioned about 50 minutes ago, but whatever.
I think it was implied.
But always felt different. Always felt more like the girls' degree of things was right and less like the boys' degree of things was right. But I was a pretty good child actor and go alone to get alone came naturally to me, so I didn't really express it much. Of course, now I'm a grown-ass woman and I can say, hey, look, like this is how I feel about me. So that's gender identity. That's 100% how I feel about me. And then to fan out from there, how I wish to be received by the world at large, including the ways in which I socialize, including the ways in which people acknowledge me, the words they use, terminology they use, what have you. That's all about me. Sexual orientation is y'all. Sexual orientation is hashtag y'all. Sexual orientation is everybody else. So out of everybody else in the world, who do I have sweet eyes for?
Right.
That's sexual orientation. I will throw a little bit of a curveball and say I don't label my sexuality, my sexual orientation. I don't put a label on it. And the reason I don't is because my relation with sexual identity and also my body and ways I feel about my body and ways I feel less favorably about my body don't line up to present a neat answer.
And that's fair. Like I said, it is a journey.
For example, if I said, yo, I like pussy, right? Just being real crude about this.
Yeah.
Then that opens the door for like the trans man to say, you're a woman. I receive you as a woman. I'm attracted to you. You said you like pussy, and that's what I got. So what's good?
Yeah. See, and that's one of the things I haven't really tackled that or attempted to, because it's not a conversation that I can even have on my own. But I have said it before that things get tricky when it comes to transgender people, because in that LGBT, the T is the only one that's a gender identity. And then you have to, on top of that, add the sexual orientation. Right. Whereas the rest of them is just the sexual orientation. Until you start getting into the other letters, and then it kind of is a toss up. Then there's some there's orientation, but for the LGBT that most people know, when you get to that T, and that's why I didn't make a big stink, and I understood the arguments that the T shouldn't even be included, because it's not the same. But then I realized at the same time that is not the determining factor of why that T is a part of that acronym. It doesn't have anything to do with that gender identity. It's the camaraderie of being an outcast in society.
And because I don't want to get too much into the history of this, but Stonewall was a riot caused by a poor black trans woman, and correct. The idea of that riot being the byproduct of the socialization of lesbians and gay men and people who went both ways, so bisexuals, and trans, people. Let's just go ahead on and say that's kind of the impetus for like that degree of inclusion.
Yep.
But back to like orientation again. So like if I say, I'm into women, then some trans women might be like, be more specific. Like, am I included in that? And then I might be like, hell yeah, you are. Or or maybe not my cup of tea, but if you got a friend, kind of thing, right? So again, it gets complicated in that way where like, again, trying to slap the simple, neat label on it just either excludes the wrong people or includes the wrong people. And there's nothing wrong inherently with liking who you like. I will not be the person who tells you, well, I mean, unless you're only in a cis man, in which case I will say, woo.
Good luck.
But no, and I say that tongue in cheek, of course. But no,
I don't. Good damn luck.
In the places in which I've had to like put an orientation, right? Like I could opt out of it, but I'd want to put something there. I've put queer.
Okay.
And then I've let the filtration fall as it may on my side. Someone sends me a message and they're not my cup of tea, then I just move on. And if they are, then we jump right in and let's go. But again, that's on me. That's my
yeah. So I would say, to sum it up, and this is for the listeners, because I think I have a pretty good grasp on it, but I could be wrong. Your gender identity is how you feel about yourself and how you choose to present, and your sexual orientation is who you are sexually attracted to.
Correct.
To
I am a woman. I am transgender, but I'm a woman. Like transgender it's an adjective.
Right.
And I am into a group of people.
That's fair.
It's a couple groups of people. They'll know. I'll tell them what I am.
Yeah. I mean, attraction is, what do they say? Attraction is fluid. Makes sense. Okay, so that is going to wrap up this conversation. And again, Bianca, I want to thank you for agreeing to do it and being so candid with your answers. We didn't dive into the specifics of what you have going on, nor did we need to. We still got what I feel like was a meaningful conversation and things that, I mean, like I said, I learned a lot just from the questions that I asked you. So again, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
So let's move to the last segment and then we can shut it down. So the queer query.
Question.
First question. Now, this question was specifically for you because I know y'all do misconnections on Crown and Collards. So, first question is, if you were to ever write a misconnections type of letter, how do you think it would go? And I'm actually going to go first on this one. I'm going to give you a little bit more time to think about it.
Okay.
So if I were to write a misconnections letter, I think it would either be something podcast related, which I don't even know how that would go, but that's been such a major focus in my life over the past year and some change. I could see that. Or it would be some grocery store creep shit. Like I could see it being something like, ew, I saw you at the grocery store, you were eyeballing all the cooking oils and the greases, but I mean, I'm not sure if you could tell, but you could grease me up anytime. If you see this and you're interested, tell me what kind of shirt I had on. You know what I mean? Be like, you were over there by the Crisco. Whew. I almost said something really off the wall. So that would be the kind of letter I think one or the other. Like I said, I don't know what kind of podcast letter I would write, but who knows? So what you got?
God, how would mine look? Okay, so I will preface this by admitting I'm an extremely awkward flirter. Like I shot my shot last night, and I was breathing hard after. Like it's tough. But yeah, so mine would be a reflection of that. I would probably mention something like that I liked about them. So it'd be like, yo, you had really cute shoes on, and your pedicure was amazing for your skin tone. I'm the trans girl who you probably didn't think was into girls, but totally am. Right back if this is you, and then I get like 20 dick pics in my Craigslist email box.
Fix it, Jesus.
Because apparently men are the only ones who actually respond to those things.
Yeah, I'm sure that men are the only ones that respond or write them. I think it's probably like 5 women on the internet that have written a misconnection. The rest are men, and they're talking to each other, even though they're aiming the letters at women sometimes. Sometimes, because that one letter, Jeremy, I know you're going to hear this, and I ain't forgot. I'll never forget that shitty booty letter that you had when I was on Crown and Collards. Never forget.
Whoo, Jesus.
Never forget. Yeah. Just, let's move on because I'm getting flashbacks. Okay, next question.
We've had some great ones over the years.
Yes, you have. Y'all have had some outstanding ones, but that one took me down because I was like, because it was here, and that was what hurt my heart even more. It's like, how dare you? How dare you go to a sex party with a shitty booty? I just no, I'm not reliving this. We're moving on.
Move on. Let's go.
Okay. If you could ask any living celebrity for an undeniable favor, who would you ask and what would you ask for?
Ooh. Okay, first off, this answer will not be sexual in nature.
Mine's not sexual either.
Secondly, it would like so when I was presented this question, I was like, there's an 80% chance I'm going to ask this to Michelle Obama.
The first lady.
And then I was like, what the hell could I ask this woman?
Right. What
Like
favor would you ask of Michelle
right,
Obama?
like what would I ask Michelle Obama to snap her fingers and make happen? Like, because again, this is undeniable. So like the next time I blink, like this is going to be a thing that she just like imposes on the world writ large.
Correct.
So I'm going to venture away from that. I'm going to go a vastly different direction. And I would ask Sheila E. for a 2-hour drum lesson.
Oh, that's a good one. I like it. I'm here for it. Sheila E.
I would ask Sheila E. for a 2-hour drum lesson. The reason being, I didn't get to see Prince live before he, ascended. And I know that she had a particular proximity to him and learned from him, got a lot of influence from him, what have you. And I think it would just be a good time. She's a little older, not too much older. She's a little older. But I think we would find just that common ground. Like I think we'd both have like these banging outfits on and just like chat about that for a little bit, and then it'd be like, all right, to the drums, and like we take our break, and then we, have like the vocals or some shit, and then like I just think it'd be awesome.
I feel like it would be a blast because she's so passionate about it. You know what I mean?
Trust me, I get it. That answer is super self-serving.
I mean, it's a favor, so
like it's not me asking again, like Michelle Obama to like push through like some agenda, some political agenda, like liberating trans women from the bullshit of the world.
I guess so. Maybe I should have worded it personal favor. Although I guess it could
much
still
better.
be.
Yeah. So yeah,
it's a personal favor.
That would be it.
Something for you. Okay.
I mean, like Sue Bird lives in Seattle. She's 3 hours up. I'd ask to shoot hoops with her for a little while, maybe.
Okay.
But no, I think my one above all answer, like again, when this question was presented to me, was again like I had the what the hell would I ask Michelle Obama question in that way. So no, then I was like, wait, I really like music and undeniable favor. If I could get 2 hours of Sheila E.'s like daily real estate, that'd be great.
Listen, my only critique of that is you aiming low, because I'd be like, look, girl, take me on your next tour. Let me learn as we go. But that's just me. Because greedy. Speaking of greed, what would I ask and who would I ask? I would ask Bill Gates for $500 million. Give me the money. Give me the money. You got more than enough. And I was trying not to be too greedy because I was like, should I ask for $1 billion? Because he has several. He has a lot. But I say, you know what? 500, I can do some things, and the money can make money. I won't be too greedy. But give me the money. Show me the money. Show me the money.
Yeah, it's funny because talking about money, just today, Bomani Jones's podcast had Brian Koppelman on, who's the co-creator of the Showtime TV show Billions. And this is not a plug for the show necessarily. I don't have Showtime, so I can't watch. But
me neither.
a thing that they talked about was just this notion of like ascending but cascading tiers of having money, and how like you reach a level and you realize there's so much more to aspire for. There's so much more that you can attain, and like that next person at that next level of what they've earned always can leave you feeling like what I have ain't shit,
That's interesting.
But
I can see it though, because I could see getting 500 million, being like, okay, I need money to make money, and then being like, okay, so how do I? Because my whole thing is, I would be like, I want to be comfortable, but then I want to also be able to pay it forward.
Right, like I got this first billion. How am I gonna get these multiple billions?
Right. Right. I'm going to ask Oprah, like, how you do it? What should I do, girl?
Right.
Because clearly you have it figured out for the blacks. What should I do? Okay, so we're going to wrap this up actually with a guest question. So you get to ask a question.
I get to ask a question. Goodness, I hate this part of the show. Let's see. So in life, you before this episode had some experience with trans people, and now having gone on this episode, you have like more experience with trans people. And what like one sentence banner of a message would you want to, I guess, share with the world at large, based on what you've learned today and what you kind of came into this episode already knowing about the greater trans community?
What would my message banner be? It would be trans people are real people with real experiences, and those of us that have privilege should be doing what we can to help them. And that's pretty much one of my objectives in having you and other trans women and in the future, hopefully trans men on the show. If I can use this voice, this is not the sentence is complete. Now I'm just explaining it. I'll be like, this is a run-on sentence. No. But if I can use this platform and do a small part, there's more, obviously, there's always more that one could do, but just being able to have this platform and allow trans women or trans people, I should say, to speak. And for me, as a cisgender gay man, to just listen, because we know that gay men can be transphobic just like other people. And I would hope that it's a welcoming space and that you feel comfortable, and the fact that this is more so for you than it is for me. Because not every, speaking specifically for trans women, but also for the trans community, not everybody is going to be a Janet Mock or Laverne Cox. Not everybody is going to have an opportunity to tell their story or just have people listen, even if it's not about telling your story on a broad level, just to be able to have people listen and listen with intent and comprehend and be able to have a dialogue where you're not feeling like you're talking to a wall, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
So yeah, that's my goal, and hopefully I accomplish some of it with you on this show on this day.
Yeah, no, it's been really good. It's been good to sort of, again, talk candidly and be vulnerable in that way about what this experience is, what it can look like, how it can feel. Again, the notion of some days I can just wake up and feel like absolute just garbage, but that's okay. Like that's part and parcel for this whole thing. Because I mean, you zoom the camera out far enough, and we got that in common with everybody. It's just how it manifests for the trans person is obviously a much more significant degree different than how it may take hold in others. So
right.
So people understand just how real it is. Shit is real.
And I think that was because I've never heard a trans person say that before, and so I never considered it. That hey, and it makes perfect logical sense. I just never thought about it. Like it ain't all shits and giggles, especially with you talking about hormone replacement. Like that's a whole nother can of worms, because it may not even be emotionally or mentally. It could be a physical day where you just are not with the shits.
Yep.
So I'm very, very happy that you said that, and hopefully not only I'm not the only person that was enlightened by that, I should say.
Yeah, y'all better be enlightened out there. Hello.
Yes, light bulbs should have one glowing over your head right now, like a Nintendo character.
Savor this. This cost you nothing, people listening.
Yes. So that is going to wrap up this conversation. Yes! Bianca, again, thank you so much for carving a little bit of time out to be on the show. Again, happy forthcoming birthday. Happy Pride. I hope you have the time of your life this coming weekend. And before we get out of here, remind the people one more time where they can find you and the things that you do.
You can find me on Twitter at TallBiancaXO. You can find me on Instagram at tallbianca.jpg. Yeah, I went that route. Fight me. Snapchat, which I very rarely use. Actually, I don't want to mention my Snapchat. Again, I very rarely use it, so it's not even worth mentioning. But no. So yeah, those are ways you can find me in the digital internet space. I welcome all who want to learn to come and ask me things. Just understand that I may not want to answer a given question, and that ought to be okay. Although I know with some people it's like, oh, but I'm just asking nicely, and I just want to know. Like, so yes, and talk slow, move fast, look before you jump. So
yeah. And they can also find you on the Crown and Collards podcast.
Yes, you can. You can find me the better part of that show. No, I'm kidding.
True facts.
Hey! No.
I said what I said. I work with your co-host on another show. I said what the fuck I said.
Well, excuse the hell out of me. But no. I am looking to do those things. I'm expanding into comedy writing, just starting that up, which is really fun because now there's a trans writer in the room and like trying to make dick jokes funny again. So,
oh my. But go off, sis. Yes.
I'm trying. So yes, live your best life and just be gentle with the trans people in the world. Let's just go ahead and say, make this nice and easy.
Yeah, I agree. Another huge thank you to Bianca for agreeing to be on the show and being so candid about her experience and some of the things that I don't think a lot of people think about when it comes to the transgender experience. But hopefully, again, as I said before, hopefully everyone learned something. So go to GaysideStories.com for more information about the show, about the guests, and everything that is housed under the umbrella. Remember, you guys can reach out to me at GaysideStories@gmail.com if you want to just have commentary about the show, if you have an idea for a show, if you want to be on the show, if you want me to be on your show, send out all that stuff to the email. You can follow and interact on social media. It's at Gayside Stories on Twitter and Instagram, Gayside Stories on Facebook, and Gayside Pod is the Facebook discussion group. Make sure you guys are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to take a little time in honor of Pride Month, take a little time, go over to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star rating, and if you have a little extra time, write out a review. Make sure that you guys are sharing this show with others. Share it with your friends. Get the word out. That's how we grow, and it just helps get this show to more ears. Thank you again for listening. And as always, you guys, make sure that you're protecting your walls, especially during Pride Month. I know there's a lot of jokes and memes going around, but it really is important to protect yourself. I will see you guys next week. Thank you again for joining me. Goodbye.